This is the E-Commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome Mr. Michael WEIR from Inventory Boss to the podcast today. Welcome, Michael.
Howdy. Thanks for having me.
It's absolutely my pleasure to have you along for the ride today. And we were joking about the fact that there's 908 Michael WEIR profiles on LinkedIn, and I was having a real struggle finding you on there. But we finally got connected, and I'm really looking forward to our chat today.
Yeah, it's going to be a great chat. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yeah. Now, before we get into what Inventory Boss is and does and what it says on the tin, how did you come to be in this crazy space we call e-commerce, digital commerce, logistics, inventory management, warehouse management? How did you get to be, like, what sucked you into this crazy world?
I was a full-time civil trial attorney in Southern California, and I absolutely hated my life. A lot of people don't realize it sounds glamorous, but it's a lot of stress. And all the courthouses are in the downtown, so downtown LA, downtown Long Beach, downtown Riverside. So I found myself on driving 4 hours a day, and I just hated my life. And myself and almost every other attorney I talked to was looking for a plan B. What's your exit? I'd be talking to opposing counsel, and we'd be in the middle of a case, and they'd stop and say, "Hey, what's your exit plan?" It's like, we all had one. And I found online marketing quite a while ago, and I hooked up with a partner, and we started teaching people how to trade Forex. And that's when Forex was big. You could sell courses for $2,000 a pop, and we built a big list, and away we went until then everyone got in. And so it just became a nightmare. So I looked for something else, but I was hooked on online marketing and the fact that I didn't have to leave my house anymore. And I made more money as a trial attorney. And so after the Forex fell apart, I found ASM, and I was part of ASM2 long time ago, 2013. And it was just free money back then. It was just, Amazon was just a gift that kept giving. You could screw up huge, and you still made a lot. And so what got me into logistics was there was a gap in training. And that gap was, okay, I know how to source. I know how to do my listings, optimize everything. And this was this 10, 11 years ago. But man, I'm spending $30,000-$50,000 to a factory. I don't know how much I should be ordering. I found myself rushing stuff in on airplanes and then being overstocked with stuff. And you add this up when you've got one or two products, it's survivable. But when you have 20, 30, 50 products, all of a sudden inventory management's a thing. And I looked around, I figured I can buy a course for a couple of grand and someone will teach me what I need to know. And so I went looking for courses, and to my dismay, I couldn't find anything. So I started talking to a lot of friends at the time. They didn't have any answer either. And one buddy of mine, he had a warehouse full of stuff that he bought 2 years ago, spent like 400 grand. He couldn't move it. And it was a nightmare. And so what I did was I took a deep dive. I couldn't find anyone to teach this to me. And so I live in North Idaho, in a little resort town, but we have a college here. And all the local universities, or all the universities in Idaho, have a satellite campus up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where I live. And so it has an extensive bookstore and professors. And I just went and bought. I have a business degree in finance, but I didn't, even this was a while ago, I didn't know you could get an actual degree in inventory management. So I bought all the textbooks, talked to professors. I went on webinars that had nothing to do with Amazon, everything to do with inventory management. And I taught myself. And I took a deep dive and came up with a system, started teaching my seller friends. And then before you know it, I'm invited to speak at mastermind groups all over the world, because I became the most popular guy in the bar after their series, because everyone had a ninja trick for this, that, and the next thing. But the guys would come up and say, "I'm buried. I don't know what to do." And I came up with an 8-step system. We called it the 8-step algorithm. We didn't have a name for it. And then I said, I can teach you on spreadsheets, but spreadsheets are so clunky, you need a database. And so I built this, and it was a desktop application on Windows. And it was clunky. Finally, I stopped, and I went on. I made it a proper SaaS application. It's cloud-based, multi-channel. And it took several years to do that. It was the middle of COVID. It was a mess. But I actually went further and got certified as an inventory manager with a global outfit called Association of Supply Chain Managers, ASCM. And I just want to make sure I knew exactly what I was doing, because it impacts my business. And so that's where I got today. And then I have a product and I have a course for people that are looking, that that realize the biggest expense in my business is when I wire money to my manufacturer, whether it's in wherever it is in the world. If you're not producing your own products, the biggest expense in your business is when you click a button and 50 grand goes to a factory on the other side of the world,
Yeah.
and you hope you made the right decision.
Yes.
And that's when, now if you have multiple factories and you have multiple products, it really starts to add up and it really starts to matter. And
Yes.
like I was telling you in the beginning, when you have just a couple products, you can make a mistake and you'll survive it. But when you start compounding multiple products from multiple factories, logistics really becomes, you can say you're an e-commerce seller, but if you're a third party seller, you're really in the business of moving someone's product with your brand on it onto a platform and selling it. And that's logistics. And you have to have the basics squared away. You got to have your listings need to be optimized and all of that stuff because it's important. But a lot of things come and go. Stuff that I learned how to rank on Amazon in 2015 don't make any difference today.
Yes.
And the inventory management, once you know this, once you own it, it never changes. It's math. It's forecasting. Once you have it, it's yours forever. And so that's when I needed something solid and secure that was dependable and reliable, day in, day out, year in, year out, to help me run my business, and optimize your capital, because that's what you're doing. When you're sending money all over the world, you're sending your operating capital to different companies, and you've got to get that squared away.
Yeah.
Because you only have, your pile of money is only so big. You have a pile of money, and that's what you have is your operating capital. That's what you have to work with. You run out of that, then you got problems. And if you transfer your operating capital to a warehouse full of stuff that isn't selling, you have problems because you're not making any money, and you're getting charged fees by the warehouse. It's happy to have your pallets stacked all over the place because that's how they make money.
Yes.
And that's what I did because I was bleeding money, and it became a thing. And then I started teaching, and well, if I'm teaching this, I might as well just build it. And that's what I did. That's how the Inventory Boss came about.
Wow. What an incredible story. And this is a classic case of eat your own dog food. This is a classic case of scratch your own itch. This is a classic case of doing what Amazon does, which is take a cost center and turn it into a profit center. And you're taking a cost center or a cost function within your business, and you're like, hey, I had to learn all this stuff from my business. Why don't I monetize this and turn it into a service and a platform and a product that I then can monetize and sell into the marketplace to fill a need? And what I think many listeners probably don't necessarily know, especially if they don't work in the sort of logistics and procurement side of e-commerce, is that sure, if you've got a heavy-duty ERP, if you've got NetSuite or you've got SAP or you've got almost any other major heavy-duty ERP, they will usually have a demand planning module. They usually have an inventory planning module, and it'll take all sorts of things into account, like what's the weather and the destination you're going to, and it'll take into account supplier performance and replenishment rates and help you set min-maxes and all these different things. But if you're just a relatively small seller, an SMB business that is running something like Xero or QuickBooks or any one of the other just standard off-the-shelf accounting systems to run your business, they don't have demand planning modules. They don't have inventory management modules. They don't have capital allocation modules. They don't have unit economics modules within them to help you run and allocate the capital in your business efficiently based on demand and throughput of your business. And this is the thing that, sure, if you're a big business and you're doing $50 million a year or more and you've got this big heavy duty ERP, you probably don't need something like Inventory Boss. However, if you're any smaller than that, you probably do need something like Inventory Boss, because otherwise you're going to have to try to figure out all those wonderful Excel macros that you built before you built Inventory Boss. And they're going to have to do a lot of time, spend a lot of time on YouTube. They're going to spend a lot of time listening to logistics podcasts to try to even wrap their head around the type of formulas that come into play to try to not run out of goods. And especially in the Amazon ecosystem, Amazon will kill your account faster than anything else if you run out of goods. It's that simple. And especially if you commit to selling a good and somebody's bought a good, and then you say after the fact, sorry, I can't fulfill it for an extra week, that will really kill your account.
It will. And then they just recently, in the last couple of months, said, hey, we want you to have at least 30 days supply. How do you calculate that? You can. And then the biggest problem is people try to do this on spreadsheets. And that's where I started falling down. You need depth. You need data. You're going to run your business and a lot of people say, this is a data-driven system or data-driven business, which it should be. You have to have a database, and a spreadsheet is not a database.
Yes.
And one of the things I'd say when I speak from stage is you're trying to figure out a three-dimensional product using a problem using a two-dimensional tool. You can't do it. You can. You've got here so far. You've hobbled along with your spreadsheets, but you wouldn't be talking to me if everything was working great. And the first thing you do is gosh, you just got to get the depth of data. Once you have the data, that's all a software program is. We have a database, and on top of it, we stack all the programming, the language that manipulates the data. And once you have that, then you can relax. You can truly relax because all you have to do is understand the concept of how the math works. You don't have to know how the math works. I teach math once, and you got to go through it once. And I tell everybody, one of the first videos I have has two little guys. They're in a Zen position, and I say, "Deep breath now, relax. I'm gonna walk you through this. If you made it through the 7th grade, you're gonna be fine. But let's walk through this so you understand the concepts, and then after that, you're clicking buttons, but you know what buttons to click." And then the boss does everything for you, soup to nuts. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. The first thing you need to do when you're dealing with your data is you got to clean it up because there's outliers in your data. You got to get that clean because you don't want to bake any mistakes or outliers into the cake of your forecasting because that just skews everything. So you clean your data, then you set your reorder points, and that's something I have for your audience. I have a link to some calculators that I built, and there's actually some videos, some training videos that I took out of the box and I put in that one page. It's free. You don't have to opt in or anything. Just go to the link, and you'll set your order points, your reorder points, and you'll figure out how to set a reorder point properly. Then also how to create a safety stock calculation. And it's complex, but you have calculators. And if you just watch a 5-minute video, it'll teach you what to do. And then that's where most people fall down is they either don't order on time or they don't order enough or they order too much. I mean, that's really the logistics part. So if you got your reorder points figured out, at least when you're supposed to order, and then once you get your forecasting figured out, then you know how much to order.
Yes.
But the boss is great because it takes your data, calculates a seasonality index for you. It's inert. You don't have to do anything. You can look at the graphs if you want. So I put the graphs in there. So you go, wow, that's my seasonality. But there's nothing for you to do. I didn't put a single button for you to click on that part. But it takes the seasonality, then it forecasts. It allows for you to make manual adjustments. For example, a spreadsheet doesn't know that Prime Day is coming up.
Yeah.
But you do because you're the business owner. A spreadsheet doesn't know that 4 new sellers entered your market and are just flooding it with cheaper prices. And so you can make manual adjustments because the spreadsheet doesn't know one way or the other, but you're the business owner. So you can make manual adjustments and then away you go. And the math is there being done for you. And as a business owner, you get to take your experience and what you know about your niche or your category and put that into play and make great decisions over and over. That's the inventory boss. And that's how inventory management should be for any e-commerce seller. It just should not be difficult. And it should not be the big challenge that it seems to be for a lot of people.
And if I look at this pricing, it's a little bit crazy to me if I'm reading this right. And in all transparency, I haven't ever used Inventory Boss before. But $99, $199, $299 lifetime license, one-time purchase deal. As far as I can tell, that's not a monthly. It's not $299 a month. That's $299 one time. And if I compare you to platforms like Inventory Planner or like Predico or any one of a number of other quasi-competitors in the marketplace that kind of play in this space that are trying to automate some element of demand planning and forward buying and all that sort of stuff, these platforms will oftentimes be charging what you're charging one-off every single month as a SaaS fee.
Yep.
And how do you make your money, or how did you decide on this one-time, one-off fee that presumably you've got ongoing costs associated with it because it's a SaaS platform? And so you've got to be running these calculations behind the scenes constantly for these brands. And so you have an overhead associated with that, and you need to be able to cover your overheads and make a profit for your services. So how does commercially, this doesn't seem to work commercially, but you've obviously figured it out because you're a numbers guy.
Oh yeah. And it was my wife's first question. Well, how are you doing this? I said, and then this is what I'm doing. This is a limited time. And I decided, so I've got other business interests. I'm doing fine. And so what I want to do is I want to get the word out, and I want to make it entry level for any business. I don't want a price barrier for any business, even the new people. And so what I'm going to do is I'm not doing Oh gosh, I'm not trying to create a sense of urgency or
A false sense of
fear of
urgency
missing
or a
out.
bait
Right?
and
Yeah,
switch or
and
whatever.
I don't want to do that. But what I want to do, candidly, is I have plans. I want to get this out and I want to pay for my development that I've sunk into this thing because development is not cheap.
Yep.
It's horrifically expensive if it's done right. Then what I want to do is this system works. It works flawlessly. It works really well. One part that we haven't touched on is what makes mine different. And there's a lot of things to do, but one of the things I have is a refinement step. It's at the very end. And so, if, for example, if I forecast for a product over a 6 month forecast horizon, and that month all the way through, that's my forecast, and the we save that in the table in the database. So then, when the sales come in through the APIs, we know what the sales are. So for right now, we have Amazon, Walmart, and then WooCommerce or Shopify. That's really typically what most
Yep.
sellers have.
Yep.
And so through their API, we're pulling in their data.
Yes.
And so we know, so we have our forecasted sales,
Yes.
and then what the actual sales were.
What the actual is.
And then
Yeah.
yeah. So then what we do the differential, and now we have a refinement value for our next forecast. So over several iterations, you're getting so good at this. Actually, the math is being done for you, but you just get better and better. That sets us aside. And the nice thing is, to get back to your question, I'm leaving this open for lifetime deals to do a couple things. One is to raise capital. I want to make the barrier of entry so low. Candidly, you'd be a knucklehead not to get that.
That's when I first saw that, I was like, why, if I'm a retailer, why the heck would I not do this if I'm running Shopify, WooCommerce, and selling on the standard marketplace?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Believe me, I know what I'm doing. I'm giving this away basically for a lifetime deal, what I would charge a month.
Yes.
And I'm doing that in order to pay myself back for what I've sunk into this thing. And then what I'm doing, like I said, because I know the system works so well, I've talked to developers about doing some deep machine learning, and we're going to turn this into an AI product.
Right.
And so once we have that set up, and then I will be the only one with that. And the nice thing about that is you'll come to the product and you'll say, and you'll talk to, I call him Milo, my AI guy. And Milo, for this quarter, for this next event, or the next horizon, I've got $36,000. Tell me what I need to order.
Wow.
Okay. And then it'll go through, it knows all your products. It knows your profit margins. It basically knows what your best sellers are, what you have to have, and you'll be able to tell it what you need. And I've got Prime Days coming up, and I need to do this and this. What do I buy? And then AI spits out a report, and Bob's your uncle. Now, that's amazing with 5 products. It is staggering with 250, right? And
or $1 million.
So the AI is going to be monstrously awesome. And so what I'm doing right now is anyone that buys right now to help me capitalize that, in for life. And then when I get this set up on AI, once AI is ready, I'm going back to subscriptions. But whoever bought before, like right now, will have an opportunity to get the AI at a lifetime deal as well.
Wow.
And so that's my incentive. And that's the reason I'm doing it. And that's why I understand the pricing, because the pricing will go back to a monthly pricing.
Yes.
And if you missed out, that's a bummer. But if you got in on time, even if you let it sit on the shelf,
Yeah.
say, I'm going to wait for the AI. It'll be so worth it. And so I figured the AI will take about, knowing what I know about development, you take what they tell you, you multiply it by 3.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
And
It'll be a year.
Yeah, it'll be a year.
Yeah.
But in that time, I'm going to get the word out, and I'm going to take care of all my subscribers, and we're going to have webinars if there's issues, and make sure everyone truly knows what they're doing. And once they understand the system and they're working with it, when the AI comes in, it's just going to be a walk in the park.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason for the pricing. I know that it's inexpensive right now. Inexpensive doesn't equate to cheap.
Yes.
It's just, that's the business plan I have.
Yes.
So it capitalizes itself, pays me back, and then it front loads the money for the AI development. And once I've got that won't just be for e-commerce. That'll go to small boutique stores. That can go all the way up to small little mini marts. It's just inventory. It's SKUs and math. That's all it is. And if you've got big old servers, you can handle anything.
Yes. Yeah. I'm very blown away. Now, when we think integration and we think the data sources, data sets that you're working with, you're dealing with, okay, here's the SKU information, here's the pricing information, here's the cost information, here's the sales information. And what other data are you typically gathering to be able to generate these forecasts with reasonable accuracy?
Oh, that's a great question. We have a product data upload file. Mm-hmm. And I've modeled it right after Amazon's inventory file. So if you've ever done an inventory file on Amazon, or gosh, think any other online platform,
it's all similar.
all driven by CSV files, but made it look just like Amazon's, color everything. And so you take your information and you put in lots of information. What's the size of your packaging? How much are they charging you per square foot? Because as in this, you buy stuff from China, you're getting cubic meters.
Yes.
You store it in Amazon, and they're charging you by the cubic foot.
Yes.
So you got to get this stuff figured out. But we take all that data, and you take the time. Like the course takes about to go through. I've split up in the lecture and a lab, just like high school or college. The lecture is here's the math. Okay, take a deep breath. An afternoon. Hit me at 1.5 speed and just get through it.
Yeah.
Okay, but we have to get through it. Then once the lecture is done, then the lab opens up, and the lab is basically onboarding.
Yes.
I take you from beginning to end. Here's the software. Here's where you go on to Amazon to download your reports. Then take this information, put it in this spreadsheet. And that takes a while. There's a second afternoon that you need to do, or tell people, I know you have assistants. I know you have VAs.
Do this yourself.
Take the time to
do this yourself.
Do this yourself. Just make sure, and then once you hand it off, obviously, if you want to, but unless your business is so incredibly big, and you have a VP of something or other, but do this for yourself. If you've got a good sized business, you should know, because once you understand, then the reports that get generated for you, you'll instantly know what they are because you did it. So anyways, I encourage people to do that. But then once you onboard it, it's like a flat file you upload. And then the tricky part is, and I don't want to get too technical, is most people start with an ASIN, but they have an ASIN and a SKU. But if they go over to Walmart, they might have gotten lazy or forgetful, and they created another SKU for the same product. And then now you've got ASINs, you have SKUs, and they're all different. So there's a mapping system for the data. So everything maps. So you got to take your time filling this thing out. Because, for example, if you have one product, you put in how much does it cost? What are your MOQs? What's your tier pricing? So we have an MOQ. If you have tier pricing, we need to know, because that's part of the system. So you can take a snapshot and you can look. Then you build out your reorder points.
Yes.
And you just put all that data in. And then once you upload it, then the APIs take over and they start pulling in your data. They start pulling your sales data. And so what we do is we have two types of data sweeps, I call it. At the end of every month, it will, like at 12:05 a.m. at the end of the month, it'll grab all your last month's data, your sales data. And so we'll know month to month what your sales data is. And then if you need to, you hit a refresh button. It tells you right now a snapshot. Here's what you have. Here's what you have in inventory here and here. And so you have a snapshot. So you always know what's going on. In fact, the first page when you open up the software is called the snapshot tab. And it's color coded. If there's something red in your business, it will tell you either you need to make an order or you need to get it into the distribution center, whether it's one of the Amazon FBAs. So you deal with fires, okay? But then if you've uploaded all this data, so it knows. It just knows. It knows your reorder points, and it will tell you, even if you turn the thing off and you haven't been on it for a while, internally it's still working in the server, okay? And because we have what's called cron jobs. It'll go in and say, okay, we're still going to sweep the data. We're still going to do this. And hey, we know what your reorder point is. Are you paying attention to this? And so an email will go out once a week and say two things. You'll get two emails. One is, hey, you're coming up on your reorder point on these products. And then I have a red, yellow, and a green. It's like international. It's okay. Red, you got 10 days. Yellow, you've got more time. Green, it's okay. You need to be thinking about this down the road. Same thing with sending into Amazon. Hey, you're 3 days away from, if you figure it's going to take 10 days once you give it to UPS or however you ship it, before they actually have it
they receive it
available, receive it, and they actually will ship on a purchase. You calculate that and you put it in, and then it'll tell you you're blowing it. And so even if you're not paying attention, you'll still get an email from the boss on those two things. And that's why we put in so much data. That's why you front load so much data into the system. But once it's there, it's in the table, it's in the database. And the cool thing about, and I'm not a developer, but I've learned a lot about building a SaaS. First of all, it was just, to begin with, it was just, do we have the code right? What are the bugs, the errors? And you get it figured out. And then they say, okay, we got to split this up. And I said, yeah, I always wondered how you did that, because we have one database. They said, no, we call it tenants. So think of a huge, long building, a tall building, big old thing. Every floor's got 100 cubicles in it. We got to split this thing up by so many cubicles, so many floors, and that's how we built SaaS. That was news to me, because everyone gets their own database, but I couldn't figure out how, because I'm a lawyer, dang it.
I'm not a developer.
I'm not a web developer. But that's how it works. And so you get your own data and you take the time and you fill out a flat file, you upload it. But once you've done that, all your data is there. I've made it so much easier to edit than anything Amazon could ever conceive of. It's a breeze to use my flat files because all you did is just highlight it in the yellow, that's the fluorescent yellow that's available on Excel. And that cell I made a change, upload it changed it that fast. And without, people have had issues with flat files, especially beginners, but mine's just simple. And so you upload your flat file, the API is pulling all the sales information, and you are set to go. And then every month it continues to iterate the sales from the previous month. And it has a separate table that will tell you what your sales were based on, like I said, the refinement, what your forecast was. So it's constantly making you better with each iteration.
Wow. And is it your vision for the future that eventually you won't even have to do anything with flat files? I can connect to my seller account on Amazon. I can pull down my listings. So that way I've got the SKU, I've got the Amazon listing ID, I've got all this information that I have from Amazon that I can get from Amazon via the API, to where people don't need to actually upload their SKUs. And if they change SKUs, if they delete SKUs, if they add SKUs, they don't need to update this via flat file or anything like that. We're just going to pick up the delta that, hey, some products have been dropped, some products have been added. Now we need to add these to our database and continue to track these transactionally. And if a transaction comes through for a SKU that we don't yet have, then we better bloody have that in our data set before we can start tracking sales against it.
And for now, that's the answer is no.
Okay.
And one of the reasons is because Amazon changed. Have you noticed how many times in the last year or two Amazon has changed just the front end? It's like, sometimes it's okay. I haven't been here in a while. I got lost. I used to just be able to click my way through making an order or to replenish inventory. Now there's 3 different pages you can do it from. What are you doing?
Yes.
Okay, for a developer, that is a nightmare.
Yes.
And so for now, it doesn't take long, and you learn a lot about your business as you're doing this. You're copying the stuff up and going, "Is my box? Who put that dimension in for this box? That's not right."
Yeah.
And so it allows you a kind of a once over before you upload. And then when you do, it tells you need this data because it tells you a lot. For example, one of the steps in our system is warehouse balancing. Which is especially important for Q4 in Amazon. Or 4x the price for, they tell you we're only going to let you put this much in, but of course we're going to charge you 4 times the amount for your storage fees. If you've ever looked at the math, which I'm sure your audience has, wow, your pallet fee, your warehouse is just so much better than what Amazon's giving you. So we have a whole, I call it a tab. There's a web page that balances, so you can see what I'm paying for my pallets, how much I currently am paying per month in my warehouse for my current stock of goods, and what Amazon's paying. So what you have the ability to say, my forecast for the month of August or September was, I need to send in 650 units because that's what our forecast is to sell. But I want to have a buffer of 100, so you can set a buffer of 100 for all your products, and it sends in that plus. Or if you know what you're selling a month and they want an extra month's worth, you can manage that way. But then you can look and see, wow, if I send it too much, I'm paying a whole lot of fees. And you can balance your warehouse fees, and that's part of logistics, is optimizing your costs and your expenses. And so you need that data. You need to take the time to put that data in, make sure it's correct. Once you've done it,
it's a lot easier to make. It's a breeze.
Oh my goodness, yes. And then you've got your master file. And if you want to upload anything new, just highlight it in yellow, click a button, and
here's our delta.
What you just done.
Here's our delta.
Yeah, piece of cake. Yep.
Wow. And if that's not high on your radar, if we were to look out 12, 18 months from now, apart from the AI and machine learning piece, which is obviously the next big, what are some of the other things that maybe your customers are asking for, or gaps in the market that you don't yet fill or meet? What is the thing that's really getting you excited apart from the AI bit? Is there anything else functionally that you want to add to the platform apart from that?
That is a great question. And yes, there is. Right now, when you send, say, 600 units from your warehouse in Amazon, on the spreadsheet, you need to note that that particular warehouse for that product is down 600, 650, or whatever you said.
So decrement and increment.
Yeah. And so that we haven't automated yet, because it's not difficult, but the problem is, or the challenge, I should say, is that there isn't just one warehouse and one warehouse system.
Yes.
Everyone's got their own warehouse, and that warehouse might run any number of different
OMSs
programs.
and WMSs. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So you've got warehouse management systems galore. And so with each one, you need an API. So, I've identified the top 5 and that most use. We're not there yet. And so that's going to be something after we've built this up. I'm going to pull everyone and say, okay, I need to know. Here's the list. Let's vote. Who wants us to use this or this as we're starting out our warehouse management aspect of the project? And based on, hey, my warehouse uses this. That's pretty much I'm not gonna try to tell the market what they need. I'm gonna build this out. And in about 6 months to a year, I'm gonna pull all of our current customers, clients, and say, what do you want? Because we're gonna it's just a roadmap issue. Here's the next thing on the roadmap. I need to hear back from you, because if you're silent on this, you're not getting your vote. But if you're proactive and our warehouse uses this software, it would be great if we could just get an API key and tie this in.
Yeah.
An API key is a piece of cake.
It's relatively easy. Yeah.
Relatively easy. So then you got 5, and then it'll grow to 10 different warehouse management operating systems where it's just an API key. And then, because then it gets really involved. For example, about 2 years ago or a year ago, Amazon changed their API system for developers. And it wasn't just a matter of getting developer status. It was, okay, we want to look at your application now and determine if so. We were ready to launch, and so you're not an Amazon software partner yet. And you guys change all the time. So then I had to become an Amazon software partner. That took iterations. But once we had that, now you can have a Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, MX, anywhere in the world. We're clicking buttons. It might take a couple of days, and you say, hey, look, I've got 4 different regions. Can you get that set up in my account? And yes, no one starts out with anything, but once you're set up, it's a support ticket. Hey, will you set me up in this? You bet. But since we became a software partner, an Amazon software partner, now we have there for every region on the planet.
Yes.
And these things just take time.
It's just a regional ID from there.
Yep, it's regional ID, and you go. So that is the latest, and the best is coming when we have the warehouse management software that we can just hook up through the keys. Once we have that, plus the AI, it's just going to be a whiz bang program. So
I suspect that PeopleVox will be near the top of your list from your retailers, but the reality is a lot of retailers use 3PLs, and sometimes they don't even know what those 3PLs use. And sometimes those 3PLs use bespoke software internally for their WMS. And this is where the challenge comes in. Sometimes when you ask for a response from your clients, they may say, hey, go talk to my 3PL and talk tech, talk geek with this 3PL, because I don't know what they use.
And then it's where I become flexible. It's okay, this is going to take some development time. I will custom do this for you. Let me talk to your people. It might cost, it just depends on your business. This is going to cost about $1,500 to put together. But once you have it, you're squared away, because most of the warehouse management software packages, they have to open source their APIs.
They have to have APIs.
They have to. And so it's a matter of, okay, this is what our programming language is. And if you have it canned up, if not, we'll code it. We'll figure it out. We'll get the endpoints figured out. And so that's where it's hard to just can it.
Yes.
It's hard to say, I've got these WMS, and hopefully those are what you have. So right now the boss is just, I got it where anyone can use it.
Yes.
And some things are manual. Sorry. It's nearly impossible to
automate absolutely everything anyway.
Automate a prediction.
Yes.
So that's where it's just going to come down to customer polling. And okay, we got 3 more APIs for software we're going to do in the next 6 to 8 weeks. Who wants what?
Yes.
And then we'll knock those out. Then we'll knock those out. We'll knock those out. And that's the roadmap. That's the plan.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. And I like your business model. I like your growth model. I like this sort of done for you model as well. If you want some hand holding, you can pay for that. If you want to basically outsource it to you using your software, then that's a possibility. I like the flexibility that you bring into the table. And look, the endpoints that you already connect to, the major marketplaces and the major e-com platforms, look, it ticks a lot of boxes for a ton of merchants. And it's probably going, to be honest with you, it's probably going to delay the need for many SMB merchants to go to a full-blown ERP. They can probably get away with running something as simple as a QuickBooks or a Xero or any one of the small accounting packages out there, the MyObs of the world. They're probably going to be able to stay on those platforms a heck of a lot longer without needing to move to a full-blown ERP if they've got something like your platform in their business to help them. Because a lot of these small retailers, they might have 1, 2, 3, 4 people max in their business, and they're an SMB. And the reality is they're trying to do marketing, they're trying to do product information, product innovation, new product development, they're trying to do sourcing, they're trying to be a CFO, they're trying to manage their cash flow, they're trying to do all these things, and they're trying to keep their finger on the pulse of the market of what's new and hot that they can't miss out on. Otherwise, they're going to miss out on a massive opportunity. And the last thing that most of these people have time or inclination to do at the end of the day is to try to manage their inventory. Or they just don't have the ability. They don't even know where to begin. They literally have no idea where to begin.
Because there's no one teaching them.
Yes.
And to this day, it boggles my mind. ASM 2 was 2013. Okay, it was 11 years ago. And I still look for someone that has, hey, I got a great course, not just here's how to create a reorder point, or here's how you use the EOQ. I have a soup to nuts. This is all you need to know. And by the way, I also have a software that once I teach you, you can just move right in and it'll take care of it all for you. I'm shocked that I'm still really the first after a decade. And people have asked me, well, why do you think that is? And I think it's just because people teach what they know. If you really know, if you know your PPC and you're amazing at it, that's what you teach. And a lot of marketers, like I came in from Forex, it was straight up information marketing. It was SEO and direct marketing and having a product that worked. E-commerce is convoluted beyond that. Physical products is convoluted. And there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of plates you got to keep spinning. And most people have an understanding of marketing, but they don't have an understanding of the logistics and the math. And there's no one out there teaching it.
And I'm fond of saying that e-commerce is just logistics with a pretty face. And that's what all of e-commerce is.
It truly, especially for third-party sellers. I mean, you're just a guy in the middle trying to juggle things and make a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you can't figure out your numbers and logistics is a mystery to you, man, there's a lot of sleepless nights. Yeah. I missed my reorder point. My factory's totally busy. They can do it in a month, and now they're telling me 3 months. I'm going to be out of because on Amazon, you spend 6 months clawing your way to the first page or whatever you did to get there. You run out of inventory, you vanish. You don't exist anymore. You are dead to them. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And man, I remember, I don't care how much it costs to put it on a plane and get over here. I have a bestseller. I can't run out.
Yeah.
I can't run out. And it's just, anyways, logistics is the thing.
Yeah. It's the thing.
But once you have it figured out, then it's a big nothing burger. And hopefully I'll have the AI within a year. And then they'll just be, I've got this much money, figure out what we can buy. And that's best for our business. And I think I'm going to be the first one to do that. So that's where I'm heading. That's why my pricing is what it is. Hey, get it now. Because if it takes 6 months to build this thing out, you got a 6 month window. And I'm not trying to create like I said, a false sense of FOMO.
But it's a genuine, yeah.
Once I've recapitalized and I've got enough to get the AI built, then we're going back to, we're going to start selling it at a monthly subscription price. I still want to keep it for the low end,
accessible,
new sellers. I don't want to have a huge leap for them to make just so they can manage their business. That's just that's not me anyways, but so it'll still be inexpensive, but it will be on subscription.
Yeah. And even if it's $50 a month, which is cheap for running all the inventory in your company, that's still going to be over $500 a year. And the reality is you can get it today. You can get the ultimate for $299 lifetime license. At the end of the day, people need to jump on that while they're at it. Listen, mate, this has been a fantastic conversation. I've learned a ton. I didn't even know you existed until you guys reached out. Fantastic conversation. I'm really glad you exist.
Awesome.
I'm always a big supporter of anybody. I consider what you do as, I put you in the bucket of commerce enablement technology. That's the bucket I put you in. And I tell you, there are some people out there doing amazing things in the commerce enablement space, and you're one of them. And I will always, I know how hard it is to develop a great product. I know how hard it is to develop software. I know how hard it is to work with developers. They're like chefs. They know their stuff, and I have many developer friends because I've worked with developers for many years. But a few years ago, a friend of mine who is a developer, he said, look, Jason, you can't think of us like normal people. He said, you can't treat us like normal people. You can't talk to us like normal people. We are aliens, and you have to understand that. You have to understand we are aliens, and you have to treat us that way. And I'm a non-developer, but I'd like to think I speak the language of developers, so I can read API documentation. I can do Postman tests. I'm a senior solution architect on very complex technology, so I have to be able to translate business requirements into technical requirements and vice versa. So I act as the great translator between clients and developers. And what you are doing is you're effectively standing in the gap between developers and people that need a simple way to accurately manage their inventory and their cash flow associated with it. And that is something that, again, if you're a big company and you've got a massive ERP with full demand planning module and everything else, great. That's not where you come in for everybody that's between 0 and say 20 million bucks. You're a perfect fit, especially when they don't have an ERP in their business and they're running just a accounting system in the back end. And they're focused on innovation and they're focused on selling and building community around their brand. They don't really have time to think about this inventory stuff. And so with your platform, they don't have to. Sure, they're going to have to do it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve there, but once they get over that hump of that learning curve, then the software can do the rest. And I really like that. I love that model. And I'm glad I met you and I'm glad you exist. And I'm really glad to get this information out to the industry. I really am.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. This has been a great chat.
It has been, and I've really enjoyed it. Now, as nearly an hour has nearly blown by, as we come down to the end of our time together, this is where I get to flip the script. I get to hand the microphone over to you. I get to let you ask me one question, any question you like. Mr. Michael WEIR, one of 908 on LinkedIn. What from Inventory Boss? What is your question for me today?
Let's keep it on topic. What, as we talked about in terms of logistics, if I was to come up, if you said, I just want you to add one thing to the Inventory Boss, what would that be?
Wow, that's such a great question.
From what you've heard me describe so far.
Yeah, look, that's a very good question. I think, you said that you're omni-channel. I'm guessing that you break down what kind of throughputs you're typically going to have by channel, right? And do you have the ability to set reorder points by channel today? Or do you just set a total inventory? And the reason I ask this is because oftentimes brands will have a warehouse or a location or whatever that is assigned to service a channel, right? Or they'll have internal warehousing capabilities to service their direct-to-consumer website, whereas they'll have different thresholds and reorder points and everything else that will be needed for the likes of Amazon, especially to service FBA. And so you might need different reorder points and different reorder quantities and different min-maxes by channel and by warehouse location. And so this is something that I see brands really struggling with when their demand planning software just says you need to order 1,000 of these and you need it to get here by X, but we don't tell you where it needs to go to, where it needs to get routed to, and which channels that's going to fulfill and meet the need for over a window of time. And it feels we're increasingly moving into a world where sellers never sell only through one channel. It's very rare nowadays that they only sell through one channel. They're selling through
only beginners.
A minimum of 3. Then the second question that is on the back side of this is B2B. Because B2B typically has exceptionally more complex inventory management requirements than B2C, D2C, because they are moving cartons, pallets, and containers, not individual units of individual SKUs. And therefore, and especially if they're both D2C and B2B, this adds an extra layer of complexity in terms of replenishment, especially when you start taking into account the MOQs for B2B, whereas it's one item in the B2C world. This starts to get more complex. So first of all, how are you addressing the omni-channel needs and multiple warehouse locations of merchants combined with the extra added complexity of B2B merchant sales?
That is a quandary. And right now, the flexibility we have is through the Amazon regions.
Okay.
And this, for example, if you've got a European business and a North American business, it matters.
Yes.
You put on different ships.
Yes.
So we've got that covered.
Okay.
So you click a button, it goes down, and you can go to region, click that, and it'll give you that region's numbers, and then you can make on.
Okay.
Right now, we do Amazon FBA for, like I was telling you, our snapshot page. You open it up, it's Amazon centric. That's where most people, that's the majority of everyone's got an Amazon business. The next iteration, a roadmap item, once we get really rolling, is we're going to do the same thing for Walmart. So you can have a Walmart snapshot tab because you got a DNC over there. And so if they've got a distribution center, you've got issues with fulfillment just to the distribution center. Now, as far as if you're shipping, because you've got a Shopify account or a WooCommerce, you've got a website, you've got a main warehouse for that.
Yes.
And it's not a distribution center. It's your own gig.
Yeah.
To split them up is difficult. But what we've done is, remember I talked to you about mapping.
Yes.
Okay? That's why this is so important with the product data upload file, because you've got one, we anchor it by SKU. I don't even anchor it by ASIN.
Okay.
But Okay. I anchor by the main SKU. Now, it's typically going to be the Amazon main SKU. And so your ASIN's there, or you can put an ASIN in. But then if you've got Walmart, Shopify, Sears, Home Depot, I don't know what you
Target.
got. You can only start with something, but what I allow for is flexibility for mapping. And when we're adding APIs for different platforms, and right now we're starting, like I said, basic, Amazon, Walmart, and then your website, WooCommerce or Shopify. When it comes in through the API, we know what API it's coming in through.
Yes.
First of all, it gets tagged. This came from, these are database structural
Yes.
things I'm talking about. It gets tagged, it gets mapped. And so now we have a table that is for a product, but it has tags and maps. So we can then parse that down the road on the roadmap. But
Yes.
I've built the infrastructure
Yes.
now
Yes.
so that whatever comes in, it's tagged and it's mapped to the main product SKU.
Yes.
And that's the one that drives everything. Because you got to start with, you got to have, in database terms, you need a primary key.
Yes.
And that's
The
what
SKU
you
is that
have.
key.
And you have the main SKU, and that's the primary key. Because, like I said, you have to have a database. But if you have a database, you are working within the laws, not the rules or the guidelines. You're working with the laws of a database. And it's a open source MySQL database, but it's extraordinarily powerful. And you have to have a primary key. And I don't want to get too lost in the weeds on technical stuff, but you got to start somewhere is the way I explain it. And that is your main SKU. What you've had for the last 5 years for your bestseller, that's it. Don't try to monkey with it. That's the one. If it comes from Amazon, that's fine. You can map everything else to that by different SKUs on the other platforms. The software does it all behind the scenes. It's all mapped. Now, what we've done with that so far is we have reorder points in our snapshot for Amazon. And then you can make different orders by region on Amazon.
Okay.
Because, like I said, it goes on different boats. That's where we are today.
Okay.
So that's a long-winded answer to your question because it is a conundrum
Yes.
of data.
Yes.
And so it's a conundrum of data. But it's possible if it's built structurally, which we have from the beginning, to tag data as it comes in from different APIs. So that's the answer.
Love it.
The answer is yes, but not now.
Love it.
So.
Look, this is great. And yeah, hopefully that question pricks some future thought and some future ideas for development of the platform.
Perfect.
Now, how do you like people to get a hold of you? I will drop a link to your very hard to find LinkedIn profile into the show notes. I will drop a link to your website in the show notes. Other than that, how do you like people to get, if they want to reach out, they want to chat to you about Inventory Boss or inventory planning full stop or getting to know what this could do for them, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
The best way is support@inventoryboss.com.
That's easy.
That's simple. It gets converted automatically. We have a ticket system, but you don't have to be registered or logged in. It converts it to a ticket, sends it straight to me and our support staff. And I see everything.
Wow, absolutely amazing. Listen, this has been a fabulous chat. I've learned a ton. You're clearly a very smart guy. You've clearly put your heart and soul into this, and I wish you every success because, like I said, e-commerce enablement technology is what our industry needs, and I am seeing increasingly little tiny slivers of e-commerce enablement being peeled off. My mate Hamish Mackay over at Order Editing for Shopify created just an order editing app. That's all his app does for Shopify, and it has some post-edit upsell opportunities associated with it, and he's continuing to develop out the platform. But I'm seeing there's another guy that I had on my podcast recently who his technology is also a Shopify app, but all it does is sit between his is a subscription pre-cancellation intervention technology. So if you sell via subscription on your website and people are going to just about ready to unsubscribe or pause or cancel their subscription or whatever, his technology will intervene and it makes offers, it asks them questions, it asks them if they want to pause instead. And so it basically helps to recover up to 20, I think his stat is 20 or 30% of subscriptions can be recovered just by the introduction of his technology.
It's amazing.
That is a space that you wouldn't normally think would be an opening, sliced off in the user experience to help recover revenue, to help retain revenue, to help retain customers, to help make them happier, to help make their experience better. And in your case, what I found when I was running e-commerce for brands is that running out of inventory, there was a direct correlation, and we could probably speak on this for another hour, but we could chart a direct correlation between the average percentage of catalog availability in a given month and our conversion rate. Now, the reason and they were inversely correlated, because the reality is, as your percentage of catalog availability goes down, Very few merchants only sell one item. Very rarely are their carts composed of a single item. On average, it might be 1.5 or it might be 1.6 or 2.2 items per cart on average, right? When you're running loyalty, when you're running free shipping thresholds, when you're doing all these things to retain your customers, people want to get the maximum value out of that they can. And if they come to your website and they had intended to buy 3, 4, 5 items and even one of those items is out of stock, they will oftentimes abandon the entire cart and take it either wholesale elsewhere or delay their purchase until that item comes back into stock so they get their free shipping, so that they get their loyalty points, so that they get all these things. And so what you find is that it might seem like not a big deal to be out of stock of just a few items in your catalog, but the downstream impact on all the other associated carts that would have been part of, that has a massive impact on your conversion rate. And making sure that you do not run out of inventory, especially on the top 10 or 20% of your top selling SKUs, it is mission critical for your business. You don't have a choice. If you want to be successful and sustainable as a business, you cannot be out of stock. It is that simple.
It is. That's how you make your money.
Yeah, that's right. You can't sell what you don't have in stock. It's that simple.
You can't sell air. Nope. Nope. I get it.
Been an amazing conversation. Can't wait to speak to you again soon, my friend.
Hey, thanks so much.
Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.